Under the same roof, we share the love, embracing the differences like hand in glove. Spreading peace and joy, it's a beautiful sight. Together we shine in each other's light. And now do we stand in love's pure might, watching the world share in love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the channel. We have so much to cover today, especially with all the breaking news in regards to Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. Remember, days ago, maybe about 2 months ago, everybody was talking about what's happening with Donald Trump and Epstein, and then things went quiet because we had so many different distractions, right? One distraction after another. But now that the House has been reassembled, all we're hearing now, every channel you turn to, they're talking about Epstein. Well, lo and behold, the Democrats, namely Hakeem Jeffries, is leading the way with so many different charges and thoughts about Donald Trump no longer being the president, because they feel like there's something sinister in the air. But is it really true? We have so many people here already. We have Eric Drabanot's in the building, Deborah Bordeaux leading the way, and also we have One Love. So thank you guys for all the support. For those of you who are interested in Monica and Brandy, you know they're on tour. I will be covering that tonight. If any of you guys want to check it out, it'll be here on the channel. So tune in if you like that old style music from back in the day. But anyway, let's get right to it to see what they're saying in regards to Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. We're going to kick off with a video in regards to Hakeem Jeffries on the floor. So let's check it out and see what he's talking about here.
Taxpayers in the great state of Connecticut and all across America. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in strong opposition to this woefully inadequate spending bill that fails to decisively address the Republican healthcare crisis and fails to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits for tens of millions of Americans. Mr. Speaker, before I say anything further, let me say to our men and women in uniform, to our active duty troops, to our hardworking federal employees, to our civil servants, to our TSA agents, to our Capitol Police, to our staff here in the House of Representatives, to our air traffic controllers, thank you for your service. Thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you for the work that you do on behalf of the American people each and every day. And it's our promise to all of you that we will continue to work hard to make sure that you are treated with the dignity and respect that you deserve. In a year in which the Trump administration has gone after hardworking federal employees relentlessly, including firing more than 200,000 federal employees prior to the start of the Trump Republican shutdown. Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. Donald Trump and Republicans made the decision to shut the government down, the longest shutdown in American history. Would rather do that than provide health care that's affordable to working.
Many people are saying that Hakeem Jeffries could be the next person to run for president and potentially, win. What do you guys think? Do you think he has the skills?
Class Americans, middle class Americans, and hardworking American taxpayers. All across the country, I'm certain that there are people in America asking the question, where do we go from here? House Democrats have a simple answer. We will continue to fight to lower the high cost of living. House Democrats will continue to fight to address the healthcare crisis that Republicans have created. And House Democrats will continue to fight to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits for tens of millions of Americans. This fight is not over. We're just getting started. We'll fight today. We'll fight tomorrow. We'll fight this week. We'll fight next week. We'll fight this month. We'll fight next month. We'll fight until we win this battle for the American people.
Okay, so Hakeem Jeffries is not playing around. He's planning on taking over the show. What do you guys think? Can he do it? They keep calling him the Timu Barack Obama. Why are they calling him that? Let's talk about it.
That's our commitment as House Democrats. And there's only two ways that this fight will end. Only two ways, Mr. Speaker, that this fight will end. Either Republicans finally decide to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits this year, or the American people will throw Republicans out of their jobs next year and end the speakership of Donald J. Trump once and for all. That's how this fight ends. Mr. Speaker, during this painful Trump Republican shutdown, what we've seen is two different philosophies in terms of how to govern for the American people. The Democratic Party philosophy is clear. We are ready, willing, and able.
Okay, so let's see what a few of you are saying. We have some new faces here, so I want to make sure your expression get out. Claus, thank you for being here. He says, I'm a Democrat. Schumer is a traitor. A lot of people, including me, think that Schumer should, let's go, Schumer. It's time to go. One Love says they didn't care about them the past 43 days. Cut it out. Okay, knock it off. Eric says, let's enjoy this Thursday show and share with a friend. Thank you so much, Eric. You are a true champion. Guys, look out for Eric. Eric has a video on the way that will be on the channel. Okay, One Love in response to Hakeem Jeffries, he says, not a chance. Okay, he don't think Hakeem can pull it off to run for president. Also, Eric says, please hit the like button. Thank you, guys. Claus says, I have learned that Jeffries has taken AIPAC money. I liked him before, but this is not acceptable. I am with you on that, Claus. This is the first I'm hearing about that. C.E. Rouse says, no, Jeffries is trash. He's one of the problems in the party. Performative speeches and does nothing. He's the same Chuck Schumer and Cory Booker. Okay. Bob D says, black hating Democrats piss me off. Okay. All right. Thank you. Joseph is proclaiming the blood of the Christ, blood of the Christ. Okay. Christ saves. Dover says, who hasn't taken AIPAC money? Okay. All right. Let's get back to the video. Let's see what's happening.
Able to find bipartisan common ground anytime, any place, to enact spending agreements that actually make life better for the American people. But in order to do that, we need to have partners on the other side of the aisle who are actually willing to find a bipartisan path forward.
Guys, take a moment to hit the like button if you don't mind. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
But what we've seen from Republicans from the very beginning of this presidency is a my way or the highway approach. That's been the Republican philosophy. Jam your extremism down the throats of the American people. That's what we've seen from day one of this presidency. That's the reason why the government has been shut down by Republicans and Donald Trump for the longest period of time in American history. What have we seen from Donald Trump and Republicans during this shutdown? A consistent unwillingness to actually find common ground in order to make life better for the American people. Donald Trump, during this shutdown, found the time to play golf week after week after week. Donald Trump found the time to pardon serial fraudsters like George Santos and Rudolph Giuliani.
Oh my, did you hear what he said? He's talking about it. Let's see. Claus says Booker took AIPAC money too. Okay, James Lowley, thanks for being here. We welcome you here. Stick around with us. He says, F these crat demons. Okay, Jeffries is a weak ass loser. Okay, Mike says this guy's an idiot. Why would anybody want or need tax credit for healthcare? Thank you, Mike Jorgensen, for your contribution to the channel. Rockazilla says, I am Charlie. Okay. Gary Anderson says, so what? Eric Vander says, I just came to remind you all that the Democrats' logo is jackass for a reason, you jackasses. Okay. JDP says hello to everyone as well. Larry Clark says, young people need to be in government. Also, I saw a comment by Larry saying that all in government needs to go on both sides. Great point.
Trump found the time to meet with the Chinese Communist Party. Donald Trump found the time to destroy the East Wing of the White House. Donald Trump found the time to extort $230 million from the Department of Justice so he could line his pockets. Donald Trump found the time to bail out Argentina with $40 billion. Donald Trump found the time to rip away SNAP benefits from 42 million Americans. Mr. Speaker, these extremists are not like us.
So, guys, pay attention. According to Hakeem Jeffries, it was not the Democrats. He's saying it was Donald Trump that took the food temporarily away from 42 million American people. What do you guys think about that? Let's talk about it.
They're not like us. They have zero interest in fighting hard to make life better for the American people. Their philosophy, my way or the highway, our response, get lost. We're going to continue to fight hard on behalf of the American people. In the midst of a healthcare crisis and a cost of living crisis that is very real, despite what Donald Trump, the leader of the Republican Party, has to say, he claims there is no affordability crisis in the United States of America. But why would anyone believe anything that Donald Trump or Republicans have to say on this issue? Because throughout 2024, before the election, Republicans in the House and in the Senate and Donald Trump on the campaign trail spent all of their time saying that costs were going to go down on day one. But costs haven't gone down. Republicans haven't done a damn thing.
Donald Trump did say that costs would go down on day one. Do you guys feel like the prices have went down? What does gas look like in your area? What does it look like as far as eggs and groceries? Tell us, what about your personal experience? Tell us all about it.
Lower the high cost of living. Costs haven't gone down in this country. Costs have gone up. Inflation is on the way up. Housing costs out of control. Grocery costs out of control. Electricity bills out of control. Healthcare costs skyrocketing out of control. And in the midst of this affordability crisis, seeing this, Democrats said, we've got to fight to make sure that we extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits so that tens of millions of people, working class folks, middle class folks, people in rural America, working class America, small town America.
Okay, so today is Thursday and it's all about you guys. So for those who get a little frustrated with the comments, I'm sorry. Today is all about the comments. So we're trying to get everybody's comments in as much as possible. Keep in mind tonight, guys, I'm covering Monica and Brandy's show in Charlotte, North Carolina. So if you would like that kind of music, tune in. I will be covering the concert. Okay, so let's get to a few of these comments here. All right, Rockazilla says, Trump 2028. Leah, welcome in, says sick of Jeffries. Okay, quite a few people feel that way. James Lally says upgrade the White House at no cost to taxpayers. Okay, now Donald Trump claims that, I guess he's expecting to potentially get $240 million from the Department of Justice. So he says that he's okay with donating that money toward this project at the White House, but he's also saying that the money is coming from donations, although we haven't seen the paperwork on it, but that's what's being said. Todd Hawkins says, is Jeffries on Snap? Okay, let's get to it. Thank you, Todd, for being here. One Fractal says China was in Argentina and would have taken it over. Trump blocked it. Okay, did you guys see what's happening in Venezuela? China is in Venezuela. So what does that mean as far as with the American troops lining up on the shores and so forth? Pussyfoot Production says, I think we know better. Roberto says, good morning, everyone. Shout out to you, Roberto. Thank you for being here and your great support. James says 15 no votes. by Democrats say he's a damn liar. Okay, Rockazilla says God, family, and country in that order. Okay, Vera says the Republicans run everything. Democrats don't. They've been hurt by the people in the House, the White House. Okay, thank you. Claus is really at it. He says he was right. He is a good speaker and can bring the facts straight forward. Okay, so you like Hakeem Jeffries? Okay, Power Connection says Jeffries will soon be in prison. He's a terrorist and is out to destroy America and its citizens. Okay, where did you get that from? Share us some of the background story. One Fractal says China was taking over Panama and Argentina. It is for the Americans' interest to maintain control if China took them over closer to us. Okay, all right. Thank you guys for all the comments. C-Dub says 20,000 Epstein emails looking terrible for Trump. I'm telling you, it looks like even MAGA is bringing up serious questions about Donald Trump. Vera says the people, the Dems, are just human beings trying to help people. Okay, Sabeyu5 says Kamala didn't say anything about what she was going to do for the country. She had rappers at her conventions. And according to the record, they spent over $1 billion and ended up in a deficit. Not sure. Roberto says, I thought everyone knew that. Okay, thank you. One Fractal says gas and eggs went down. Walmart has gone way up. Okay, so we have a personal testimony from One Fractal. Let's keep moving here.
The heartland of America, Black and brown communities all throughout America don't experience premium increases that in some cases will go up by $1,000 or $2,000 per year. In many cases, month after month after month, $1,000 or $2,000 per month, tens of thousands of dollars per year. Unacceptable in this country, the wealthiest country in the history of the world. And this is in the midst of a Republican healthcare crisis. Republicans enacted the largest cut to Medicaid in American history, ripped health insurance away from 14 million Americans. As a result of Republican policies, hospitals, nursing homes, and community-based health centers are closing all across America, including in rural parts of this great country of ours. And now, because of Republican refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, tens of millions of Americans are at risk of being unable to afford to go see a doctor when they need one. In this country, the wealthiest country in the history of the world, it can't be the case that healthcare is simply a privilege for the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected. Mr. Speaker, that's the Republican perspective.
Oh my, so it looks rather shocking, but One Love says gas is $2.65. Where on earth are you at, One Love? You have to tell us. We have to drive there to get some of that cheap gas. Rise Riri says our gas is below $3, $2.98. Okay, I'm in New York, and it's far from it, guys, far from it. Roberto says from $8.99 up to $10 to 12 for 12 eggs. Wow, that's crazy. C-Dub says maggots are seriously indoctrinated into delusion and are gullible. Okay, Eric, welcome in. Nice to have you here. New face. Exactly. Read the Monroe Doctrine and you'll understand why they don't what we're doing in South America. Okay, all right. Thank you for that. Rise Riri says no MLK moral reparations. Okay. Shish Maresh says showing strength as power is always a good thing. We won't bend the knee to a communist regime like Obama and Biden. Okay. Gerald says MAGA baby. All right. JDP says like, share, and subscribe. And set on your notifications for the channel. Deborah says gas in St. Petersburg is $2.70. Okay, wow. Rockozilla says the New York City vote for communists just shows where Dems are. The party has gone off the cliff. Okay, a lot of people feel that way. Let's get back to it.
We believe as Democrats that healthcare has to be a right, and a right that's affordable and available to every single American in the United States. That's what this fight is all about. And that's what the fight will continue to be about as we move forward.
Do you guys want national health care for everyone? What do you think? Tell us what you really feel.
Many of my Republican colleagues have suggested that they want to deal with the healthcare affordability issue, that they want to address the Republican healthcare crisis that's devastating people all across this country. Well, we have an opportunity for you to do so. There's a discharge petition connected to legislation that House Democrats have introduced to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits for 3 years, because we believe that working class Americans, middle class Americans, and everyday Americans.
Okay, so we have some response to this. Darren says yes. Okay, One Love says, truly appreciate the honesty in the chat. Gas at $10. Okay. Ray says, Pet is Medicare for all. Okay. Rise Riri says, New York is getting pimped. Okay. $10, you need to move. Okay. I think he was talking about eggs. I don't think gas should be $10. I didn't see that. Claus says that means not down 25%, actually is 10% higher. Mark Roth, thanks for being here, says that man got more money. He don't give a damn about American people. Money in his bank account. Okay. All right. Very good. Let's see. Someone else said, Eric says, nope, don't work. Obamacare doesn't work. My medical bills are higher because of it. So your medical went up because of Obamacare. I don't hear that too often, but thank you for sharing that. All right. JDP says $3.50 in Arizona. Okay. Rise Riri says our eggs is not $10. Roberto says I'm on my way. Send me the address exactly for that cheap gas. Okay. Let's finish up this and we're going to move on to Trump and Epstein.
Deserve the same level of certainty that Republicans always provide to the wealthy, the well-off, and their well-connected donors. Working class Americans deserve that level of certainty. So join us in extending the Affordable Care Act tax credits. It's not too late. We're in the midst of open enrollment, but the tax credits expire on December 31st. And we will stay on this issue until we get this issue resolved for everyday Americans. Mr. Speaker, as I close, I've had the opportunity, as many of us do, to serve in the United States Congress with legendary figures, too numerous to mention. Legendary members, of course, Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi, Steny Hoyer, the great Jim Clyburn, Maxine Waters, Elijah Cummings, Charlie Rangel, our own Marcy Kaptur, the longest serving woman in the history of the United States House of Representatives. We've all had the opportunity to serve with legendary members, John Dingell, too numerous to mention. But one can't call that role without calling the name of the great John Lewis. I had the distinct honor of serving with John Lewis for several terms. Many of us here in the House of Representatives did. I'll never forget, on my first day in the Congress, I had the opportunity to meet John Lewis for the first time in person. And he called me over to see him on the House floor, and he just asked me a simple question. He said, "Are you the new guy?" And I said, "Yes, sir, Mr. Lewis, I am." And he said, "Well, we're colleagues now. You don't have to call me Mr. Lewis. You can call me John." I said, "Yes, sir, Mr. Lewis, I understand." And then he said to me, "You're from Brooklyn, right?" Now, Mr. Speaker, I got to be honest, I was tempted to say, Brooklyn is always in the house. But instead, since my mother raised me with some sense, Lenita Jeffries, I said, "Yes, sir, I'm from Brooklyn." And then he said something to me that I've never forgotten. He said, "Well, I hear some positive things about you from your predecessor, but Washington, D.C., young man, can be a rough place. So I don't want you to get into any trouble unless it's good trouble." And I just wanted to stopped by on the House floor to make sure it was clear to the American people that the spirit of John Lewis lives amongst House Democrats, and we will continue to get into good trouble to make their life better.
Okay, so in my opinion, the Democrats need a strong leader. It's very important. Right now, they seem to be out looking for the promised land. All right, Mike says the far left is destroying the Democratic Party. Okay, Roz Riri says word salad. Okay, yes, indeed, word salad and nothing burger. Mike says anyone sees the disgusting vile remarks made towards Senator Fetterman, they came from the far left of his own party. They were horrible, worse than what they say of Republicans even. Okay. Alan Beauty says, fully agree with Larry Clark's comment. Thank you very much. Nice to have you here. Please lock in with us, and we'll look forward to your comments continuously. One Love says, they are all one big pyramid scheme. The government borrows money from the reserve through bonds. The reserve creates the money out of thin air. They print the money in useless paper to add zeros. Okay. Ray Pettit says $5.20 per gallon. Okay, that sounds about what I saw in San Diego. Here in New York, we're not quite that far. I'm in North Carolina today, but I didn't look at the gas price here. I'll check it out. Gabby says, every one of you get out. Hakeem, all your phasing and gestures will never bring us back to the great oratory of Obama. Okay, thank you. A lot of people feel like he's similar to Obama. Roz Riri says, brother, where's our money? We need it. Okay, Michael. And Donald Trump says he's going to give everyone, what, $2,000? So we'll see. But he said I believe not those who are making a lot of money. Okay, so they will be excluded. Russell Bradley says universal health care is Christian. I can understand where you're getting that from. Mike says the far left socialists are running the Democratic Party. The moderate Democrats should start their own party since they are the majority. Socialists can't win a national election in this country. Okay, well, they want Mamdani, who just took over New York City. They think he could potentially win in the next big election. What do you guys think? You think he has a chance in hell to get there? Roberto says that would be the most beautiful thing to hear. Michael, okay. Nick says, but y'all think Trump shows Christian values. Okay. Well, from the Christian perspective, you're supposed to take care of your neighbor. I don't think that's a big plus happening right now. Most people are only concerned about themselves. Okay, so let's get to the big subject at hand. We're going to talk about Epstein and Donald Trump. Let's see what's happening.
At long last, federal workers will soon get paid. Stalled benefits will start flowing, and then the air travel nightmare will also end too. The longest government shutdown in U.S. history is finally over. Phew, that took a while. President Trump signing that bill in a late-night Oval Office ceremony, reopening that government after a record-setting 43 days, and then also funding it all the way through January. The House now turns its attention to the Jeffrey Epstein files just hours after Democrats released explosive emails from Epstein's estate. President Trump didn't answer any questions on those emails at the bill signing, but earlier posted on Truth Social that the Democrats leaked them to deflect their role in the shutdown. News Nation's Tom Dempsey has more from the White House. Tom, how soon could we see a vote on those Epstein files in the House?
Where are you guys at when it comes to the Epstein files? Do you think this is a serious matter? Do you care to know? Do you feel like Donald Trump did something nefarious? Or do you feel it's just a nothing burger with no there? Tell us what you think. We want to know.
Hey, Alex, good morning from the White House. Well, House Speaker Mike Johnson says a vote to compel the Justice Department to release all files in the Jeffrey Epstein case could come as soon as next week. A big development with this story came when Democrat and new Representative Adelita Grijalva from Arizona got sworn in, and she's going to be the 218th lawmaker in the House to sign this petition forcing the House to vote to release those documents. Representative Lauren Boebert also signed it. And
a lot of people feel like they stalled swearing her in so that we could delay or filibuster the whole Epstein and Donald Trump problem. Remember, Donald Trump has had a pretty decent run lately, a lot of good fanfare, but now He's back in the hot seat. Everybody wants to know what's happening with Epstein.
He's sticking with the petition despite President Trump's phone calls to lawmakers trying to get Republicans not to sign on. Democrats in the House Oversight Committee released emails written by Jeffrey Epstein, and one from 2011 to his associate Ghislaine Maxwell. Epstein writes, quote, "I want you to..."
Now, yesterday we went through those emails. So today I'm more concerned about what you guys have to say. So keep telling us. I want to share. Let's see. I'm going to try to get as many comments as I can. Riri says, I don't care. Kayla, welcome in. Nice to have you here. Subscribe to the channel, guys. Lock in with us. We have a network growing. We have a lot of people coming on, a lot of guests. You're going to be surprised. So keep tuning in with us. Kayla says, yes, serious. Doesn't matter who's involved. Okay. You're more concerned about the victims. What a noble person. JDP says each and every one of them. Okay. Island Beauty says there's something there, but I'm more concerned about the economy. That's a good rationale. Ad says, I want him outed. Okay, you want him out of here. Kick him to the curb. JDP says, hi, Ruth. Okay. CK South says another playbook for either side to use. Okay. Guys, take a moment to like the video. If you really support the channel, we would appreciate it. One Love says Epstein got a BBL. Wow, and a collagen injections, and is living in Philadelphia under Elaine. Okay. A lot of people feel like some of those conspiracies exist. Deb Lovin says, love President Trump. She just loves him. Okay. Sharon says, if there's nothing to hide, release them. Okay. 23,000 emails on the table. Isn't that something? Cliff Duke says, no, they're there. Who doesn't want them to come out? Is the Clintons. Most people believe they're the ones that had him killed in jail. Okay. Roberto says, this man dedication for patient and profession priceless. Okay. Rise Riri says, reaching, I don't care. Free Diddy and R. Kelly. Okay. Thank you for your comment. Deborah says, Trump's hiding something for sure, or the efforts wouldn't be a cluster. The victims deserve this. Clean house. They are many bad. Okay, so let's get back to it. Thank you, guys.
Realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Victims spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. The White House team has very much pushed back against these emails being released by the Democrats of the House Oversight Committee. The White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, saying that they proved nothing and that President Trump did nothing wrong. Alex?
And Tom, two simultaneous stories happening at once. Epstein on one hand, but then obviously the president focusing on reopening the government. What comes next there, and what's the president saying about it?
Yeah, so after 43 days of being shut down, the federal government can now officially reopen for business. And what exactly does that mean? Well, around 650,000 federal workers furloughed during the shutdown can now return to their jobs, and almost 600,000 federal workers who are working without a paycheck can now be paid. During a signing ceremony reopening the government here last night at the White House, President Trump once again blamed Democrats for the stalemate.
The total effect of the damage their antics cause will take weeks and probably months to really calculate accurately.
How many people here today blame the Democrats for the stalemate?
Including the serious harm that they did to our economy and to people and to families. So I just want to tell the American people, you should not forget this.
And on the other side of this, Alex, Democrats say they will continue to push to extend Affordable Care Act subsidies expiring at the end of the year, which they made a very big focus of the shutdown negotiations. But House Speaker Mike Johnson still will not commit to a vote on the issue. But getting back to those federal workers, the Trump administration saying that the goal is to start sending out paychecks to federal workers as soon as Wednesday. This upcoming Saturday. They hope to get those paychecks out with a goal of paying all federal workers by Wednesday of next week. Alex?
Okay, very good. So we're going to see what Fox has to say about this. You know, yesterday I tried to find a good information from Fox. We couldn't find a thing to see their position. Obviously, they don't normally go against Donald Trump, but today they put out a video. We're going to go through it. Obviously, they're taking his side as usual. RVing says yes, 1,000%. The Democrats are responsible. Okay, Cliff Duke says, yes, the Democrats, that's how it's always been. The party that doesn't vote is the party responsible for this. Okay. Okay, CKS6 says, I blame both. You blame both sides. Okay, I'm with you. Mike is making stuff, says, nobody with the brain. And Roberto says, not me. I worry about my neighbors every day. Okay, all right. Thank you very much. You know, everybody's starting to pick up on this guy, Nick Fuentes, and he's actually saying, according to, I just saw it in the comments, and I hear it often, he's saying that Donald Trump is a part of the Mossad, which is obviously comparable to the CIA of the United States, is what Israel has. And there's a lot that you should be researching about that. There's a lot of concerns that's happening in the country. And this is the reason why we're having all these divides, because people are following a lot of conspiracy theories and they don't want to really hear the facts. When you try to put out the facts, people do not listen as strongly as when you tell a lie about someone, especially when it's damaging to their name. One Love says, I guarantee if they really release all the files, the judges will once again step in. Okay. Jeremy says, laughing my rear off. What? Okay. Terry Bridges says, this is no longer a party issue. Both sides have sold the American people out. So it's two wings on the same bird, right? On the same bird. Isn't that something? Don't be fooled by the hype. Mike is making stuff, says everything Donald Trump knows is for sale to whoever will pay him for it. Okay. All right. That's a good point. You make a strong point there. I can't refute that. Rise Riri says that's true. Okay, so you have some support there, guys. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's get back to Fox and their position on Donald Trump and the Epstein files.
This team are questioning the timing of the new Epstein emails that were released earlier today by Democrats. Senior White House correspondent Peter Doocy has that part of the story for us tonight. Good evening, Peter.
Good evening, John. Officials here are claiming that if congressional Democrats really cared about advocating for Jeffrey Epstein's victims, then we would have heard a lot more from congressional Democrats about Jeffrey Epstein during the 4 years that Joe Biden was president. And instead, we are seeing these big leaks like the one today, selectively, according to the White House, that claims that Donald Trump knew in 2011 about Epstein's crimes.
When Donald Trump was running for president, the Democrats were doing everything possible to keep him out of office. I actually attended his trial in New York City where he claimed 34 felonies, right? Something to really think about. So if the Democrats, especially Biden, knew about Donald Trump doing something really terrible, nefarious, especially in regards to Epstein, the question that everybody always put into the comment section is, why didn't they release it on Trump? That would have went nuclear and probably would have been more successful in keeping him out of office. So that's the argument that's being made as to why they feel like there's nothing, there when it comes to Donald Trump. What do you think?
These emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong.
The president himself muses the Democrats are trying to bring up the Jeffrey Epstein hoax again because they'll do anything at all to deflect on how badly they've done on the shutdown and so many other subjects. Only a very bad or stupid Republican would fall into that trap.
When Joe Biden was sitting in there, the Democrats never brought this up. This wasn't an issue that they cared about because they actually don't care about the victims in these cases. They care about trying to score political points against President Trump.
White House officials would much rather talk about their hope that the House will soon vote to reopen the government.
There are no coincidences in Washington, D.C., and it is not a coincidence that the Democrats leaked these emails to the fake news this morning ahead of Republicans reopening the government.
Coming out of the shutdown, President Trump's approval on the economy in an AP poll is 33%. But the Treasury Secretary urges Americans worried about affordability to be patient.
There is the inflation line. We've got that under control. It's leveled out. That is going to start turning down. Then there's the income line. I would expect in the first quarter, second quarter of next year, those two lines are going to cross and the American people are going to start feeling better.
The new AP poll finds the president with a 34% approval on health care, the very issue the Democrats held on to at the start of the shutdown. But negotiations about next steps for Obamacare subsidies haven't yet been scheduled.
You can't trust the same people who broke the system to fix it. And so the American people will continue to hear from the president on this issue.
Tonight, President Trump is going to host a late dinner with some Wall Street bigwigs, including the CEOs of JP Morgan and Morgan Stanley and BlackRock, as officials here try to steer the national conversation back towards the economy. John.
Well, they're trying to get the conversation away from Epstein and back to the economy. That's a good selection, I would imagine. One Love says, facts, we were all sold out. Okay, Roberto says, that list is going to ruin a lot of wealthy people legacies. I believe so, but the truth needs to come out. Osmondias says, not true, Trump got consent from all those kids. Oh my goodness. One Love says, the list will cause some of our favorite companies to go under. Are you ready? Wow, that's a deep thought. Mike is making stuff, says Trump has to keep his mouth shut. All his contributors were on that list to mention. It would have been, okay, Lewis, okay, good, can't use that word. Osmond Diaz says, not true, Trump got consent from all the kids. Okay, that's a repeat. Dennis says the files were court sealed. Okay, Felicia Taylor says, if they had anything on Donald Trump, they would have had to lie and invent Russia Gate. They would not have had to do that. Good point, Felicia Taylor. Thank you for supporting the channel and being here. I appreciate you very much. James Irwin says due process had to be followed. It takes years to review the thousands of documents. Okay, especially 23,000 emails. There's got to be something in there. Dennis says Democrats did not campaign on releasing the Epstein files. Okay. JDP says like, share, and subscribe, and turn on your notifications. Thank you so much for all you do, JDP. Mike is making stuff, says, since when did the administration worry about due process? Good point. One Love says Trump was a confidential informant to bring down Epstein. I'll debate anyone on the panel on this. Don't keep typing. Bring your A game. Okay, thank you, One Love. Thank you. You're always on point, and I like the truths that you bring to the channel. Nothing bizarre that I've ever noted from you. Jeremy says he was talking about the Dems. Okay, James Irwin, shout out to you, says Biden administration. Okay, Cliff Duke says Russia collusion. Okay, now Epstein collusion. We are going to see that something happened, and we all know what came out of Russia collusion. Okay, all right. Thank you very much for that. Boxing Life says stock market is at an all-time high. That's true. I think I've doubled my net worth since Trump took office. Not that I agree with everything he does. I'm just making a point. Okay, all right. So let's get back to it.
That'd be a good thing. Get off the shutdown and back to things that people really care about. Peter Ducey for us at the White House. Peter, thank you.
That they should be allowed to withhold food stamp funding that Congress lawfully approved. They were ordered by 3 separate courts to distribute food assistance and are still fighting to withhold it.
The debate starting on the House floor over the continuing resolution to reopen the government. Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro making some points there about SNAP benefits. Let's bring in our panel for more on all of this. Fox News contributor Molly Hemingway, Democratic strategist Megan Hayes, and Fox News contributor Mark Thiessen. So as we head toward what is expected to be a positive vote on reopening the government, and we look forward to that, we're left to wonder where the Democratic Party sits right now. Here's what Political Playbook said. The fault lines facing both parties. Tales of Democratic disarray are hardly new, of course, but have amped up dramatically since Sunday night's Senate cave-in. And it's rough out there. We're seeing new levels of vitriol from the party's already fractious progressive base.
Okay, a good point. Boxing Life says tariffs are bringing companies back to the U.S. John Stevenson says the victims already said in the interview that NBC that none of them ever seen Trump. Okay. All right. John Doe says absolutely correct, Mr. Clark. Government is the enemy of the people. Mr. Clark, everybody's agreeing with you. That's a good sign that this channel is where you need to be. John Doe says left-right paradigm of own criminals. Okay, guys, thank you so much. And take a moment to hit the like button. Again, I will be covering Monica and Brandy's show tonight in Charlotte, North Carolina. If you're interested, I'll be streaming on the channel. You know how YouTube comes when it's with music, but we'll do the best that we can to get you a few tunes, folks. So tune in if you like that.
towards its moderately minded establishment. Importantly, that same anger is being voiced by ambitious centrist Democrats eager to jump aboard the populist train. You've got a divide that's becoming a chasm here, Megan.
I just see this a little bit differently. The Democrats in the Senate didn't have any leverage if they waited till the end of the year. Their only leverage was healthcare, so they needed to get a vote for healthcare, and that's what they got. They also got RIFT employees to be reestablished into the government. They got back pay for them, and they also got this vote on healthcare. So they did what they needed to do, and it's unfortunate that we are going to turn against each other, but the 8 senators who voted...
It's unfortunate we're going to have a circular firing
yeah,
squad,
but they didn't have any leverage. So this is what they needed to do. We're going to open back up the government, and we can have it. We can start working on a solution towards healthcare.
Where do you think this is headed, Molly?
Well, you know, I do think that the shutdown, if it had any logic, I mean, people are talking about this as being the most pointless shutdown that we've ever experienced in our country. But if it was designed to achieve electoral wins, to mobilize the base, to get them angry, like it served its purpose. And now we're entering into the area where people are starting to feel a lot of anger about the shutdown. It's disrupting people's lives. And so it needs to just be done. But once it's done, people forget shutdowns pretty quickly. We've gone through them before. And so it gives Democrats enough time to regroup. And
people forget shutdowns, but the left wing of the Democratic Party doesn't forget what the leadership did. They think that they sold out, because I don't think that those 8 Democrats and independents voted for the CR without Chuck Schumer at least giving them a little bit of a nod. And now they want him gone.
But this is the second time it's happened. I mean, he did this in 2019 when he shut down the government over DACA and also got nothing. So this is, you know, he's run into this cul-de-sac twice already. So the outcome is pretty much the same, and he seemed to survive as leader after that.
All right, and it was just such a coincidence this morning that as the House was about to reconvene to take these votes, that Democrats released some emails from Jeffrey Epstein that apparently, according to the emails, tied Donald Trump more closely to Jeffrey Epstein. Donald Trump said this: the Democrats are trying to bring up the Jeffrey Epstein hoax.
Do we have any individuals in the chat that have switched parties? So you went from Democrat to Republican or vice versa. Tell us what motivated you to do so, and if you're happy.
Again, because they'll do anything at all to deflect on how badly they've done the shutdown and so many other subjects. Only a very bad or stupid Republican would fall into that trap. One of the emails said this: I want you to realize, this is from Jeffrey Epstein, that the dog that hasn't barked.
All right. I see people in the chat talking about starting a movement. All right. We see some connections. People want to mobilize too. All right. Eric says, bingo, boxing life. Okay, to whatever that comment was. Eric says, great show today. Please share. Yes, indeed. Thank you. Cliff Duke says, our first president said having 2 parties will be the downfall of America. George Washington. Thank you for that walk down memory lane. Ted Garcia says, typical propaganda bullshit TV. Doug Whitlet says, Democrats will never regroup. They are a bunch of idiots. Okay, Roberto says, Donald Trump says, that's how you make America greater. It's not my words. Okay, One Love says, the Boston Tea Party was a true American sentiment. Candy Man is back in the building, always here to support the channel. Shout out to you. You're a real trooper. Candyman says, you have to laugh. Democrats lie so much. Now they are scorched earth, ready to dismantle their whole party. They want to throw the whole party away. Could you believe it, folks? Eric says, exactly, One Love. Let's start a movement. Okay, John Stevenson says Republicans should get rid of the filibuster, because if Democrats ever get back the power of the House to Congress, they will do it. Okay, AI Smart Cities is here, says, they all sound like garbage, pale kids. Okay. One Love says, I was a diehard Democrat until Obama. Okay. Boxing Life says, I believe that Trump may be using files as leverage. He might be blackmailing people like Bill Gates. All of a sudden, he's working with Trump and admitted that the climate change will not end Earth. Okay, let's get back to it.
Is Trump victim? Name redacted, spent hours at my house with him. He has never been once mentioned, police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. Turns out the victim was Virginia Giuffre, who in her testimony basically said Donald Trump didn't do anything wrong. So why are the Democrats doing this, Megan?
I mean, this was going to come out regardless if it was this morning's emails or the...
saying it wasn't targeted?
I don't think it's targeted. I mean, they were going to do the discharge papers today anyway. So this was never going to go away. This is not going to go away. I don't understand why every single person, Democrat or Republican, does not want these files released. we are protecting pedophiles. These campaign ads are going to write themselves against anybody who votes not to have these released.
You know, Michael Wolff, the author, also apparently was counseling Jeffrey Epstein in one email saying of Donald Trump.
Lo and behold, Joseph says that Trump needs to go to prison. Lock him up. Oh my. Roberto says this behavior about the food control, I seen it in Los Angeles County Jail. Oh my. John Turk says all need to be arrested. Lock them up, line them up, lock them up. Ray Pettit says Trump wants to destroy the whole government, not just a piece of it, the whole government. Roberto says same pattern. John Doe says never voted, never been an indoctrinated slave. Okay, Tammy Pierce, welcome back. Tammy, it's always nice to have you here. Joseph, for what? Okay. JDP is reminding everybody, if you haven't taken the time, just hit the like button, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications so you know when we go live. Roberto says it's not the government, it's the people who work for the government. They become corrupted. Okay. John Doe says because these people are compromised. And Ray Pettit says MAGA is more rabid about Epstein. Okay, I do see that. Philip says Jeffrey Epstein. Cliff Duke says just wondering, Trump is a real estate professional. You think the relationship is professional regarding buying property Epstein wanted to purchase? Yes. So Epstein got really upset with Donald Trump because he had taken a piece of property to Trump for his advice, and allegedly Trump bought the property from under him, and that's how their relationship went sour. Although Donald Trump also says that Jeffrey Epstein was taking girls from Mar-a-Lago. It came out of his mouth. I put the video on the channel several times. So we have a conflict of stories here, but either way, they seem to have severed their relationship at some point. Okay, so let's get back to it.
I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the House, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you. Or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him, generating a debt. Why is Michael?
So Donald Trump says that he has not been to Jeffrey Epstein's island or airplane or what have you. Do you guys think that they had a close relationship? Do you think that Donald Trump actually went to Epstein's home? What do you guys think? Do you believe the president or do you believe Epstein? Give us your opinion.
Wolf counseling Jeffrey Epstein on how to hang Donald Trump out to dry.
Yeah, that's what I thought was so interesting in these emails was that there were many journalists who were coaching Jeffrey Epstein and how to handle things, which is just a weird thing to see anybody doing, much less a journalist. But back to the original point, like that this is even—
Roberto, the show is at 8 o'clock tonight, so I think things will probably kick off around 9 o'clock. So tune in after 9 if you want to see them perform and all that good stuff.
A story today is something of a scandal, meaning Democrats, they went out of their way to obstruct the name of the individual in question to make it seem like Donald Trump might have some secret here that needs to be exposed. And the reason why they obstructed the name is because Virginia Giuffre, the victim of Epstein, had publicly and repeatedly said that Donald Trump had never witnessed or participated in any bad activity. So this is just hard to take people seriously that they actually care about this. There are multiple people who have relationships with Epstein. Reid Hoffman, a Democrat super donor, had a very—
Candyman says they are going to find basically that they're on a wild goose chase.
Very lengthy and sustained and intimate relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. It would be interesting to know more about that. Bill Clinton, former president of the United States, had a relationship. We even have, Ehud Barak had a relationship. Like, these are interesting things, but when you make it just about Donald Trump, when we already know about it, and we already know that they had a falling out because of how Epstein was handling the situation at Mar-a-Lago, that he got kicked out. It's just there. I agree there's like stuff to know, but it's not being handled in any way responsibly here.
Molly, just for the record, I'm sorry. I agree. Democrats or Republicans, I don't care who you are in these files. It needs to be out there. Whatever their relationship was, I have no qualms about the Democrats.
Well, with Adelina Galva now being the 218th vote, it looks like we're going to see a lot more. But I just wanted to go back to what—
For those of you that are tuning into the channel, whenever you think about watching the world of this channel, I want you to say, well, this channel typically tells the truth. They don't put out just random lies just to get a click. And there are certain people in the audience that I look to as the same way. They typically always give hard facts. So one love, Candyman, I typically can hang my hat with what they're saying. But anyway, Candyman says he has never been to the island, but he has flown to New York from New York to Florida, according to the flight logs. I've seen that too. I've looked at some of the flight logs, so that seems to be correct as well. Thank you for that honest participation as well. Boxing Life said Bill Gates and Bill Clinton were confirmed associates of Epstein. Why aren't we going after them? Probably because they're not the president right now. That's what I would imagine. But Tim Rogers says, of course, he did many times. Okay. All right. Ray Pettis says, I think problem was Epstein has hooked up with Melania before Trump did. Trump could not handle that. Okay. Wow. So thank you for your expression. I haven't heard that one before, but thank you for that. One Love says the files will be put an end to all the bickering unless CashApp Patel doctors the files like he did with CK unaliver text messages. Okay. All right. So let's move on. We're going to check out now one last story before we call it a day here. But we have none other than Jasmine Crockett. She's given her 2 cents on Donald Trump, and it's pretty harsh. So let's see what she thinks. She has a different type of spin on Epstein and Donald Trump's relationship, one that you don't want to miss. And by the way, we have Jasmine Crockett potentially coming on the channel. So I want to prime the pump for when she actually get a chance to come on.
It's now Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas, a key member of the House Oversight Committee and the House Judiciary Committee as well. Congresswoman, thanks so much for joining us. What stands out to you from these emails that were publicly released by the committee today?
Yeah, so number one, it is clear that he knew what was going on, which I think that he's kind of alluded to that at some point in time, because the president said that he was trying to kick Ghislaine out of Mar-a-Lago because it seems like that's where girls were being recruited from based on information that we have. But more importantly is that he was having conversation, he being Jeffrey Epstein, with Michael Wolff, who is writing this book or trying to put together this book. And in real time, as Trump is running for his first presidential run, we hear or we see that he made it clear that he believes that he has leverage over Trump. And he said that a Trump regime would basically open up, this is me paraphrasing, this is not exactly what it said, but basically it'd be a free for all. And as we've seen, especially in this second term, it's been a free for all where Trump has absolutely pardoned some folk that we know are terrible, and we are waiting on him to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell. I think that that's coming up soon too.
Yeah, an important point indeed. Congresswoman, let's take a closer look at that email from Epstein where he writes to the author Michael Wolff saying this, and it's a direct quote, redacted victim, the name was redacted, Mar-a-Lago. Trump said he...
Hey, Richard, tell us why you think Jasmine Crockett is a big joke. Tell us all about it.
Asked me to resign, never a member ever. Of course, he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. Obviously, we don't have the full context here, but I'm curious, how do you read this specific email and what it means?
Yeah, I think that it is showing that he was well aware and he was trying to cover his tracks at that point in time. And I think that that's what you saw from Jeffrey. Obviously, it'd be better if we could talk to Jeffrey today, but it was very interesting that ultimately Jeffrey Epstein died sitting in prison during Trump's administration.
We had on Representative Marlon Stutzman earlier. He's a Republican, and he tried to make the case that President Trump is the most investigated person in the world, and he has not been accused of any criminal wrongdoing here. What do you make of that?
Listen, they will do and say anything to cover themselves. You know, I will admit that Donald Trump has been investigated more than the normal, but he just happens to be more corrupt and more criminal than any other president than we've had. I will point out he is the only president who...
Okay, very good. So Candyman says, if Calvin runs against Jasmine Crockett, I will move back to Texas and give him a MAGA vote. Okay, I will definitely tell Calvin all about that, as Calvin knows Jasmine Crockett well. So we'll see what happens and see if he decides to run. It would be exciting, and we definitely want to keep him on the show. whichever way he goes. So that'll be awesome. And thank you guys for supporting him as well. His brother passed away last weekend. So guys, keep Calvin Johnson in your thoughts and sending him good support as he lost his baby brother.
Has been convicted of 34 felony convictions that we've ever had in the Oval Office. So while we don't know exactly what crimes he may or may not have committed, just think of it this way. If you know that you didn't do anything, then why is it that you would be twisting members of your own party's arms, trying to get them not to...
And guys, by the way, please take a moment, hit the like button. We appreciate all the support for the channel. And if you'd like to reach out to Calvin just to give him some support with the loss of his brother who died kind of unexpectedly from what I can see. And lo and behold, about 2 months ago, he lost 2 family members close to him pretty much within a week period. So if you want to show some support to him, he always supports the channel, brings you the legal facts that you want to hear about all of these cases. Also, keep in mind, we're going to be covering Luigi Mangione. I'm going to be covering that case every day. So if you want to hear about the case, I think it's going to be bigger than Sean Diddy Combs. I cover Sean Diddy Combs' case every day, as you guys know. I went to the courthouse every day for 9 weeks. Can you imagine that? I commuted, actually. A lot of you went along with me for the journey of that. So we're going to be covering Luigi Mangione. Also, I'll be going to Texas to cover Carmelo Anthony along with Calvin Johnson. Carmelo is a young man who took the life of the teenager. Carmelo is a black guy. The guy he took the life of was white, so there's a lot of racial tension. What probably going to be one of the biggest cases that hit Texas in a mighty long time, so I'll be covering that as well. So many cases. As you know, Candace Kelly, who was on yesterday, she is a law professor in New Jersey. She'll be covering these cases as well. So we have a lot of knowledge, a lot of law, basically experts on this channel. So if you have any questions, feel free to submit those questions. We want your questions answered. And we also want to make sure you guys are being heard, so because we appreciate each and every one of you. So let's finish this up so everybody can continue their day.
Release it. This would be exonerating. If you know that you are free and clear, then why not say, you know what, release the files? In fact, he campaigned on releasing the files because he didn't realize that anything that he was involved in whatsoever was involved in the files. But let me tell you something. Another thing that was said in that other email that he had with Michael Wolff was he was talking about if he wants to basically play hardball, we will make mention of the fact that he really has been on the plane. And I don't remember if it mentioned the island.
Let's actually put that email up just so our viewers can fully understand what it says. I just hope the control room can put this email up. It says, I think you should let him hang himself. And this is in response to a question of whether CNN would plan to ask Trump in a town hall about the relationship with Epstein. Epstein said, how do we craft an answer for him? And Michael Wolff says in this email, I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the House, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you. Or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him, generating a debt. Of course, it is possible that when asked, he'll say Jeffrey is a great guy and is...
Okay, Bosco is back in the building. Welcome back, Bosco. Says Crockett sure has a perfect last name, Crockett. Okay, I take it you're not a fan of her at all. Express Stop is not happy right now with something. Roberto says, I enjoy the chat every time. Okay. Ray Pettit says, these people sound stupid. Okay, all right. Harry Vance Hole says, they call themselves Christians while protecting PDF files. Okay, definitely. If you're a Christian, you know what the gospel say about the young children, and that if anyone would harm the young children, it would be better to have a millstone around the neck and tossed into the sea. So you can't be a Christian if you don't support children. Okay, John Doe says, and nothing negative was stated in regards to Trump by the victims. Okay, Roberto says, this channel is true and natural. Thank you. I'm glad you're happy with the channel. Jack Frost says, y'all keep protecting PDFs, and yet you walk and talk shit on Jasmine Crockett. All you maggots are trash. Okay, not happy with the MAGA. Okay, Jerry says, if it was true, it would have been released already. Okay, Double Dog says, Crockett the crackhead. Oh, my. Ray Pettis says, well, when she comes on the channel, go easy. Don't call her a crackhead like that. Ray Pettis says, Trump administration last 24 hours has been frantically calling Republicans to get them not to sign the petition for a vote to release the files. Trump is afraid. I feel there's a lot of fear in the air, as anyone would under these type of circumstances, especially with the emails that came out yesterday. Rise Riri says, yes, I followed R. Kelly, Diddy, and Mr. Bill Cosby. You followed them all right to the jail, right? Because that's where they eventually went. All right, Jerry says, if you believe this, you are nuts. Okay. Harry Vance says, Diddy, Trump, and Epstein had a, okay, doesn't sound too pleasant. Irene Talley says, sorry about his loss. I'll express that to Calvin for you. And Roberto says, first time I heard about Donald Trump was in 1993. He used to send tickets to the show up to his event. And One Love says, definitely my condolences to Calvin. Yes, indeed. Our hearts go out to him and his family at this time. Coast Cider says, Crockett, AOC are the best politicians in America today. Bello says, Islam is bright. Okay. Express Stop says, CNN is evil, money hungry, biased. They have nothing good to say about the American people. All right, let's finish this up so everybody can get back to their day.
Gotten a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in a Trump regime.
Yes.
That's a full email.
Yes, yes, yes. That is clear that Jeffrey Epstein had something to hang over his head. Why else or how else could you have a debt that you are able to? Now, exactly what it was, who knows, right? And that's what we're trying to get to the bottom of. But the fact that Trump does not want these files to be out, to me, says that he has more to hide than him actually being able to exonerate himself.
And then the other email talking about that we used initially, I'm just trying to find that email so I can be really precise here, but it talks about.
All right. So I have a tough question for you guys. If Donald Trump, remember when he first took office, he said basically he could stand in Times Square or something similar and shoot someone in broad daylight, and there would basically be no consequences from his true followers, right? So here's my question. If Donald Trump can really run the country on a very high level and everybody's making money and that piece, could you overlook these issues or the relationship potentially that's there or the questionable activity with Jeffrey Epstein? Would you be able to overlook that if he made life smooth for you?
How Epstein is emailing Maxwell saying that Trump was with a victim at his house for several hours. This is an email from April 2nd, 2011. Republicans were saying that that victim is Virginia Giuffre. As you know, she died by suicide. She's been very outspoken. Jeffrey Epstein. Here's the email right here on your screen. She wrote a book, as you know, and she did not accuse him of any wrongdoing. What do you make of that? And can you confirm that?
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, it's redacted who the victim is, so I won't necessarily take the Republicans' word on who it is that's redacted. And I don't know why they would necessarily redact.
Well, that's definitely a smart approach. She wants to get the facts before they just fill in Virginia Giuffre into the redacted victim list, right? All right, so here we have a few answers here. Monkey17 says, Tiffany Doe and Kate Johnson, poor 13-year-old girl, I believe them. John Doe says Trump got bailed out by the Rothschild banking cartel through the Koch brothers. Okay, Roberto says, first time I heard Donald Trump was 1993. Okay, I think we went through some of these before. So Riri says the gas is cheap. John Doe says nope. Joshua says can they? Absolutely are. Monkey17 says no, it's evil. One Love says none of the girls accuse Trump of anything. What are they grabbing at? Okay. Big LR, welcome in, new name. Lock in with us, like, share, subscribe. We do this every day, folks. I don't think so because children should not have to be in that position. Okay. Irene Talley says Trump is a big liar and an evil man. Can't believe anything Trump says. Okay. John Doe says moral integrity and doing what is right in the Almighty's eyes are the only truth, wealth in this world. Everything else is gross. Okay. JDP says like, share, and subscribe and turn on your notifications. Okay, Ray Pettis says there has been ample evidence Trump is an awful person and the evangelicals voted for him. Can you imagine that? Not pastor, old pastor. Look at your neighbor and said, neighbor, pastor voted for Trump. Candyman says, if they can show physical evidence that Trump had any involvement in the Epstein crimes, we should face that 25 years, no physical evidence shown it. Okay, great point, Candyman, as always. Roberto is laughing strong. Roz Riri says, if he gives reparations, he will be the greatest president ever. Well, they promised, him and Elon Musk promised $5,000 to the American people, each one, because of all the money that Doge saved, but we did not see the $5,000. Hopefully, the American people will see the $2,000, but we just have to see it when you actually receive it, okay? Monkey 17 says, I want to know, let's see, it went away, what Tiffany Doe and Kate Johnson saying about Trump, okay? Roberto says, my love, respect for her. Talking about Jasmine Crockett, I'll tell her that people are looking forward to her. One Love says, thank you to Candyman. All right. Peach Punk, we welcome you here for the first time. Says Trump has made being homeless illegal, taken away EBT and insurance for those who need it desperately, and are getting rid of people in the workforce. Wow. Great breakdown for you, Peach Punk. Nice to have you here. Thanks for being here. Kevin Merson said Democrats have had enough of the Republicans hiding the Epstein files. They have them in the cabinet, folks, and they're not letting them go. Rise Riri says that's not our reparations. It's morally right. We talk in morals. Okay. John Doe says he didn't have any evidence to do with Epstein PDF files and Israel blackmail scheme. Okay. Roberto says my love and respect to the family. And Frankie Smith, we might be related, says nobody's going to see a $2,000 stimulus. We've only collected $190 billion in tariffs. Okay, so it's not looking so hopeful for the money, folks. What are we gonna do? We have to start a raffle.
Someone's name who is deceased at this point.
The Democrats did that, though. The Democrats redacted.
No. I understand,
Okay,
but I'm just saying, like, our biggest concern is to actually make sure that we are protecting victims. And obviously, she wrote a book. She told her truth. Whether or not she told everything, who knows? Again, another person that we can't talk to because we have yet another side around this. So I think that that's actually one of the things that we should talk about, is that the president has tried to call this all a hoax. I don't think you have this many people dying around a hoax. I don't think you have somebody trying to hide files around a hoax. We know that there's something there. We know that his own attorney general had to admit that he is in the files. But they are trying.
Oh my goodness, this comment nearly took me out, guys. You almost saw me fall in the floor out of the chair. Peach Punk says it's illegal to be a president and a criminal. My God, that is too funny to me. Great comment to you. Shout out to you, Peach Punk. I look forward to seeing more of you. Fates Karma is in the building. Shout out to you. Nice to have you here. Ray Pettit says Trump is complicit with slaughter of thousands of Palestinians. Okay. A lot of people are not happy about that. And especially when it comes to Israel, a lot of people are trying to figure out. I never thought I'd see a time in America when a lot of the big pushers of Israel would actually be turning their back on Israel. Why is that the case, folks? Why do you see people like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones, these people turning and saying things that are very questionable about Israel when they, had a different spin on it for years previously? Pam Gator says the Democrats says they have a second chance to shut down the government in January. The British imperialist globalists are behind M15, M16, CIA, Epstein, a distraction. Okay, so you think Epstein, many people thought that all these other events were a distraction from Epstein, but you're saying that Epstein is a distraction from these issues. Wow. So tell us all about it. Rise Riri says, y'all know reparations is due. Okay, Kevin Merson says Jasmine Crockett is not the biggest joke in Washington. Tell us who is the biggest joke in Washington. John Doe says, listen to this lady try to implicate Trump when they have nothing on him. Donald Trump, you think he's squeaky clean. Wow. John Doe says, but he is guilty of genocide with Israel and Bibi. Not Bibi, of all people, not Bibi. Ray Pettis says, Trump stopped aid groups from bringing injured Palestinians to the U.S. for treatment. Okay. Roberto says, I know, sounds silly, but I can never find the like button. Okay, it's the thumbs up. So you just have to hit the thumbs up button. Okay, Peach Punk says Trump only wants to help the rich. Okay, thank you for your expression. We're almost done. Let's wrap this up.
Trying to hide stuff. The only reason that we have these emails is because we were able to get them from the estate, not because the Department of Justice was releasing information, not because Kash Patel was releasing information, even though they've had subpoenas from the Oversight Committee for some time. Kash Patel continues to hold back information. So I thank God that there is somebody that still respects the law and still respects subpoenas in this country, but it's not the people that are in power to do it, the people that actually conducted the investigation. Imagine what we may discover if we got the investigatory information versus getting something from an estate.
Well, but we should also note that the head of the Oversight Committee is a Republican. It's Republican. The chairman is James Comer. And he is the one who is issuing these subpoenas.
Well, let's be clear about this.
Okay.
This is not something that he wanted to do. This was a subcommittee, remember? It has been the Speaker of the House who has consistently tried to avoid this by shutting down the House. So what the Speaker did is he sent us out on an early recess. But before we left, it was a subcommittee of the Oversight Committee that actually did the motion for the subpoenas, and the Democrats kept pushing, and some Republicans actually joined with the Democrats. This was not led by...
All right, guys. Doug says CNN won't be around much longer. CNN is a piece of shit. Ain't that something? Wow, not a fan of CNN. A lot of people feel that way. When I post from Fox, which I tried to be balanced here, this is a very unbiased channel. But when I post Fox, I get very little complaints. LM says after Obama there was a rush if burning of, and I can't see the comment. Okay, not sure why. All right. Doug says Trump. Okay. Mr. Madman says Hunter's laptop is nothing compared to Epstein's thing. Is your head so far up Trump's rear you can't see anything else? Okay. John Doe says Fox is controlled too. Okay. Doug says Jasmine Crockett is definitely the third stupidest person in Washington. Okay. LM says after Obama there was a rush if burning of black churches. Okay. All right. Thank you guys for all the different comments. We're going to finish this and be out.
James Comer.
Like Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, I don't know if she's on that subcommittee.
Okay.
But Nancy Mace is on that subcommittee for sure. She's actually the chair of that subcommittee. This subcommittee, the ranking member is Summer Lee. So it was that subcommittee. But this was actually the tail wagging the dog. I just want to be clear about that. And ultimately, the chairman had a vote that was bipartisan, that was the majority, and he had to do it. But whether or not they have been like slow rolling this, there is no question about the fact that they have.
And you have had Marjorie Taylor Greene, I believe Thomas Massie. It's been some Republicans who want the full floor vote on this.
Yeah, we've got 4. 4 out of the 219 Republicans, yes, in the House. The rest of them seem to be okay with being complicit with protecting pedophiles.
You know, it's interesting. A CNN poll from last July showed.
So as we wrap up, I want to ask you guys this question and we'll finish off the video. Do you think that religion helps unite the world? What do you think can help unite the American people? What will it be? Would it be God? All of these concepts exist, right? But it seems that we're seeing a further divide among the people. Is it because we do try to attach ourselves to a certain color, almost like gang members? We want to either be blue or we want to be red or some other neutral stance or what have you. But what do you think? Is it even possible for the American people to unite? Because ultimately, there are bigger threats outside of the United States that are looming. So Tell us, what do you think as we wrap up the show today?
That 50% of Americans were feeling dissatisfied about the amount of information released on the Epstein case. Did that have any influence at all on your decision to make these emails public today?
No, I mean, ultimately what's happened is, obviously, again, we've not been getting anything from the DOJ. Instead, it's been the estate of Epstein. And so as they've been turning things over, it takes staff time to review those documents and things like that to make sure that we've got something, number one, of value to the public. There's still additional information. I want to be clear. We got way more than 3 emails, but in their cursory review, they were able to say, okay, here are 3 emails that we think are of value. We do anticipate that there will be more that they will find that will be of value. They will go through the redaction process. They will also consult with the Republicans before we release anything. So it takes a little bit of a process, but I will say again, that the estate seemingly has been more.
You know, it's so amazing. And thank you guys for tuning in for these particular news references that we use. It's quite astounding, the things that we learn. But one thing about the Democratic Party with Jasmine Crockett, I noticed that when she ran recently to be a leader in the party, she was rejected. But guess what? She raises the most money in the Democratic Party. So why will they not get behind her, right? So that's another subject that we could get to. But right now we're going to talk about this unity. I can't wait to read these comments. We're done with the videos. I want to see what you guys have to say about my question. Can we really unite even though they're separate parties and different belief systems? John Stevenson says, so just mentioning someone's name in a conversation or email makes them suspicious of guilt. Good point in connection with Donald Trump and the Epstein files. Peach Punk says no. Okay. In regards to the unity, Peach Punk says it's not God. Okay. So it won't be God that connects the people. Vera says it's going to be God because when you got vampires running in the country, it's going to take God. Okay. So Vera says God. Peach Punk says no God. Roberto threw out a lot of hearts. John Doe says nothing will unite the world until Emmanuel the Christ returns. Okay, John Doe, can you break that down for us about Emmanuel and Christ, and where is this Emmanuel Christ concept coming from? We'd like to have you expound on that so that those who are unfamiliar with the terms, at least of Emmanuel, they can understand what you're saying. Peach Punk says, if we can all just accept each other and not be shitting on each other, then we can all come together. Okay, that's going to be a tough moment, but is it possible? That's what we want to know. Vera says, we're all going to become one sooner than you think. Okay, JDP, hanging strong, says, please be mindful of your language due to the YouTube policies. Thank you for the reminder. One Love says religion can unite the people, but the dishonest pastors are making it almost impossible. Why are the pastors so dishonest? Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, why is pastor so dishonest? Okay, Roberto says no, it's impossible. Silvio says religion is the most divisive element in the world. Superstition and mythology presented as fact. That is a powerful comment. Thank you so much for that. There's a lot to unpack in that comment. I wish I could bring you on the stage here and have you break it down for everybody. Roberto says no. John Stevenson says the only way our country unites is if we are invaded by a foreign power. Okay, great point. Great point. Peach Punk says unite because we are human. That would be a beautiful thing, but it seems to be impossible. Roberto says, I want the future to be better. Me too, especially for the children coming along, right? That seems to be a very good concept. Kelton, welcome in. Nice to have you here. Kelton feels like Jasmine Crockett is a joke. Okay, Ray Petty says, religion has its place, but there's no law says you have to be religious. I don't want theocracy. Okay. So you're not looking to God's kingdom. You're looking for something different. Okay, thank you. Tell us what it is. Break it down for us. John Doe says the majority of all religions are deceived. I am with you 100%. At the end of the day, a lot of time it boils down to money instead of the supreme being of a God. Anthony Francom says, God is the very dangerous thing. Exactly. Tell us why, though. Break it down for us. Keep giving us more information. Demo 007 says, giving black and brown what they are owed, that would be the balanced things. We are promised stuff in the Constitution, 40 acres and a mule. That would have given black people just a due paycheck every pieces of land. Okay. Thank you. So that's an angle that you think would help the society. Thank you very much for that. And please lock in. Nice to have you here. Peach Punk says, not divide each other due to religion, hate, or agenda. And we see that happening on a grand scale. People are being divided because of all these issues. Vera says, I live by the 10 Commandments. That's the only way to live. Okay, so you believe in the 10 Commandments. Thank you very much, Vera. Roberto says, I will do everything I can on the past so the future can be better. That's a good way of looking at it. Irene Talley says, Crockett is a smart lady. Love you, Miss Crockett. Stay tuned. We're going to be bringing her through here, especially we have a lot of great people coming through on the channel. One Love says, once you understand the word, you would be a better person. Okay, the word as far as the Bible, I would imagine. JDP says, enjoy what you're watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and consider becoming a member. Okay. Anthony Francom says, those who follow God should lead through example. We shouldn't create organization around God. It causes too much destruction. Amen to the third power. What a powerful example, because that's what's happening with Islam and Christianity and Israel. We see people, because of the God they serve, they feel like they have to go. Because of what they're reading, they feel like they have to go and just take out their fellow man that does not prescribe to the same beliefs, right? There's something to think about. If the man does not believe in your God, then in most cases, a lot of these religions teach that he should be put to, right? I don't want to say the word. He should be taken out. And when God should be love, right? At least from the Christian standpoint, reading the Bible, it says God is love. But again, we see, and sometimes even in the writings of the scriptures, we see where individuals are put to death, right? So I had said the word, probably shouldn't. Anyway, KW says, haha, Crockett is a smart lady. Okay. Ray Pettit says, the establishment, old guard Democrats are trying to hold off the progressives. The latter are gaining influence. Okay. Silvio says, if you want to know what people believe, watch what they do. That's what they believe. Amen. What a beautiful comment, Silvio. Nice to have you here. It's awesome. Aryan says, there are no gods. Why do you believe in imaginary beings? Isn't the world messed up enough? Okay. Well, again, because of what's written in text, people tend to believe what's the people wrote that came before them. So that's why, that's a key reason too why people have these particular concepts, right? They have the Bible, they have the Quran, and all these other holy books, and that kind of sets the parameters to the belief systems, and that ultimately tells you how a person is going to behave or should behave based on what they're reading. And then they have the religion behind the writings to promote them in certain directions. Okay, Ray Pettit says, dishonest because of money. Money is a big element of religion as well. And so that's a key ingredient as to why people cannot get along. Aryan says, greed is all pastors got. Wow. You know, what's amazing is that nowadays we have TikTok and we have all these videos, and we're starting to see people misbehaving, especially like they show a lot of pastors trying to get money or showing those expensive cars. A lot of people didn't see that before. So now they're starting to see these different things, and it affects the way that they view the church and everything else, because they're seeing people going after greed instead of loving their neighbor or leading by example. Okay, let's see. John Doe says Isaiah 7:14-16. That is the true name of Christ. Christ mean anointed one. There never was a man named Jesus who was the son of the Almighty Father. Okay, John Doe. So I'm going to push back on you a little bit. In Isaiah chapter 7, verse 14, right? It talks about the prophecy and when they were surrounded, basically the word was used, I think in the Hebrew word Alma was used to say that there was a part of that prophecy, Alma, a young woman would have a baby, right? And then she would name the baby Emmanuel. And so that's why in Matthew, that's where you get the whole concept of Jesus being a virgin. But John Doe, I'm going to challenge you to go back to the original Hebrew when it comes to that particular text in Isaiah 7:14. When it uses the word Alma, it's young woman, it's not virgin. So when you put in the Greek Septuagint and how it was translated, whoever wrote the book of Matthew, because it was mistranslated, used the word, and look this up, they used the word Alma wrong, right? They used it wrong, and that's why Matthew describes this lady as being a virgin, when in actuality it's just saying that she was a young woman. But anyway, we could get deeper into that. That's just a point. John Doe says Jesus is Zeus. Now I understand that concept. After going to Italy, I understand what you mean by that. A lot of the ideas about religion actually came out of Greek culture and actually stemmed from Greece, and Greece actually got it from Egypt. And I was telling everybody the other day, if you go to the Metropolitan Museum here in New York, I'm not in New York today, I'm usually in New York. You will see how the religion started with Egypt, and even you have the modern day Iran, and you'll see their influence on religion as well. So I understand what you mean when you said Jesus is Zeus, just to understand the background. Peach Punk says religion is just some hocus pocus to keep us divided, just like political sides and racism. Okay, great point. Peach Punk says all to keep us divided. Okay, One Love says the washers in the book of Enoch explains much. Exactly, but the book of Enoch is not in the holy text as most people, the Bible, as most people would understand. Although Enoch is mentioned, the actual book is not there. So that would be foreign to a lot of believers unless they read that book. Ray Pettis says, if your pastor tells you how to vote, you need a new pastor. Okay, good deal. In the Gospels, Jesus was not involved in politics. Okay, John Doe says, Emmanuel followed the Torah and the books of the prophets. He is the word, Lord God, the Father, which commanded him to create all the things. Okay, so you're getting that from John chapter 1, where it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. Some texts say, and the Word was a God, right? So I understand where you're getting that from. John, yep, you got it right. John 1, 2, 3. Okay, Candyman says, pastors are like politicians. They are in it for the money, not the will of God. We Christians are called to be like Christ, not to be like the church. Okay, that's a good point. Solid point. Candyman, you're always on point. One Love says the watchers in the book of Enoch reveal much. They do. John Doe says no such thing as the church. Well, I have to debate you on that. The church, actually, we see that develop, even though prior to the Apostle Paul, there were in the culture of that time where people would meet together, they would assemble together to participate in business. And that's where this idea of the church came from. But the Apostle Paul, when he came through, remember when Jesus died, he was a Jew. Jesus was not a Christian. That whole concept about Christians came about theoretically. The Apostle Paul said, okay, there were some groups of people called Christians, right? And he also said that they were being called Christians at Antioch, right? But as far as organized religion, it was the Apostle Paul. In Matthew chapter 23, Jesus said, do not call anyone rabbi, do not call anyone instructor, right? Well, Paul came through, he set up these churches, which became the Catholic Church. and they were calling each other by these noble names of bishop. So the Apostle Paul is the one who really set up all these churches and organized religions. And not only that, he was sending them letters throughout the Roman Empire. So that's where we get this whole concept of this church from. Paul kind of paved the way, even though it was quite different than what Jesus actually set up. Jesus had a similar program, but it was much different than the Apostle Paul. Most people don't realize it, but I could show you if we had more time. Okay, John Doe says no such thing as a church. Okay, it's the body of Emmanuel, the Christ. Okay, you're getting Emmanuel from Isaiah chapter 7, verse 14. I could get into that too. One Love says church is within you. Okay, Jesus says the kingdom of God is within you if you do believe in that. I understand where you're getting that from. Tony says God is also just. Okay. All right. I get where you're getting that from. That comes from scriptures too. Roberto says, okay, you're talking to Bordeaux. JDP says like, share, and subscribe. Thank you very much. Peach Punk says God shows himself as a shepherd, but he's a wolf in sheep's clothing, leading people into the wrong direction. Peach Punk, it depends on what you're talking about. If you're talking about the Bible, I understand what you're saying, because the holy books from different religions have a different spin. You are pushing back on the Bible or the Christian way, or you could even say the Israel way, which is quite different too. Most people don't realize that for the most part, Israel rejected Christianity because they rejected Jesus. And so today, because of politics, at least with the modern Israel, they are very acceptive. In fact, you'll hear BB say, or you'll hear Israelites or Israelis say Judeo-Christian way of life. But keep in mind that the Romans were the one who actually put Jesus to death, but it was at the hands of Israel, right? And that's why in the Gospels, Jesus says, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the killer of the prophets. So a lot of people are so twisted today because in the Bible, it says that Israel was God's chosen people. When you start with Genesis to Malachi, you would get that impression. But under the Greek scriptures from Matthew to Revelation, you start to see that Israel lost God's favor. They lost his favor. And actually, it was the Jews who had Jesus put to death. It was at their order, although the Romans were the ones that allegedly executed it. Now, I'm just speaking from the angle of the books. Whether people believe in the books, that's a different discussion. I'm just speaking from her statement. Thank you, Peach Punk. Russell Slagle says Trump is playing them again. They going to open the files and it's going to empty Hollywood and a lot of government jobs. Okay, thank you for that. Billy says Jasmine Crockett is the dumbest congresswoman in Congress. Be a damn lawyer. She is stupid and dumb, and I would never want her to be my lawyer. Okay. John Doe says we are called to be part of the body of Christ. Okay. You're getting that too. I understand you're getting that from the Greek scriptures as well. So let me ask you a question, John Doe, since you're bringing up a lot of scriptures. If Jesus, when he walked the earth, spoke Aramaic, why are the scriptures written in Greek? I want you to think about that. If Jesus spoke Aramaic, why aren't the scriptures written in Aramaic? Also, here's another question for you, just friendly discussion since we're just chatting today. When you look at the scriptures, what religion did Jesus start and where are those people? Because you'll see that when the Apostle Paul came along and he said he was on the road to Damascus, Paul never saw Jesus in person. Paul said he saw a light and Jesus spoke to him from the heavens, right? This is what Paul says when the apostles were the ones that walked with Jesus. So Paul also said that after he had this holy experience with Jesus, because remember, Paul was a persecutor of the Christians, right? He was out here trying to arrest them and pull them back to Jerusalem. Jesus came to him in a vision, allegedly, and then he had this big transformation. Then he went away for a while. When he came back, he said he met with Jesus' brother James, who was basically leading, because when Jesus died, he passed everything over to James. They were called the way people. The Bible mentions the way people, but people are so confused. They don't see these dividing lines. So anyway, Paul said he went and talked to Jesus' brothers and he profited nothing at all. Paul taught that when Jesus died and when Jesus was on earth, he taught that everyone should follow the Torah and the commandments. That's all under the Jewish faith. Jesus died as a Jew, right? Paul is the one who came along and opened it up for pretty much anybody in the Roman Empire. They would be called Gentiles and they could convert to Christianity. So Paul did not teach the same thing as Jesus. And this is something that most people don't realize. That's why the Bible tells you, because most people don't read all the scriptures, but that's why the Bible tells you that they had this big argument about eating meat and pork, right? They also had an argument about circumcision because they did not walk and have the same teaching, right? Although most people think they did, because the Roman Catholic Church is the ones that put the Bible together. And because they put the Gospels in front of Paul's writings, people think that they're automatically jiving when they don't. Okay, so that's my challenge to you, John Doe, as you keep bringing up these scriptures, which I admire. Okay. John says negative to Peach Punk. Okay, Tony says Psalms 53:1. The fool have said in his heart, there is no God. Corrupt are they, and have done abominable iniquity. There is none that doeth good. Okay, good scripture. That's from the Hebrew text, though. John Doe says, without the Holy Bible, the inspired word of God, I, man, woman, cannot know what is good, righteous, and holy, nor can you know what is evil. Okay, if that's what you prescribe to, that's a good point. Ray Pettis says, I can understand people wanting some concepts to understand the world. Why are things as they are? Religion fills that void for many people. But it gets rather tricky because a lot of people, they use religion to commit these bad acts too. So it requires to be smart. The other night I engaged in a debate, and the debate was about the violation of women. If you go to Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 28, the Bible breaks down of how a woman is violated. And when a man violated the young woman, right, the man who violated her would have to marry her. So now you're marrying the victim. And there was a concession to where she'd had to pay the father 50 shekels. Can you imagine that? But this is what's broken down in the Bible. The Bible also breaks down slavery too. So if you think about slavery, the Bible says that if you had a slave, in Deuteronomy, check it out. It says you could beat that slave. As long as the slave did not die, there was no punishment. So you could beat him. That's where that concept, beaten nearly to death, comes from. So that's just an answer to what you just said. I'm going to take a few more of these and then I'm going to be out. Okay. CK says, Emmanuel, God with us. Yes, that's what that means. Joyce says, we will change from within. We will have Christ consciousness as we evolve, which is happening now. If Jesus was a rabbi, he probably had a wife. Okay. A lot of people try to refer to her as being as Mary Magdalene. That's a whole different discussion. He would not have been, even though in the book of Matthew, when the angel came to Joseph, he said that the son name would be called Jesus. But the letter J wasn't even developed until a later century, I think around 14th century. So he would not have been called Jesus. That was a translation. So that's why you get the name Jesus. A lot of people associate that. You'll hear people saying, well, the first slave ship was called Jesus too. And that's why you get all these different stories, but we can't really unpack all of that, although I would love to get into it. One Fractal says, once they started teaching sex and altering children, people won't put up with that, or culture could live with each other if their beliefs don't involve murder. Okay, great comment. Thank you for that. One Love says Isaiah 45:7, which says, I form the light and create darkness. I bring prosperity and create disaster. I, the Lord, does these things. Okay. It also says that God created evil. So is that the point you're trying to bring out too? In Isaiah 45, if you go to the original text, it says that God created evil. So therefore, you would have to question the events that happened in the Garden of Eden with the devil. And you know what's weird about this, right? Just to show you the play on words, if you take the word evil and you put a D in front of evil, you get devil. So obviously, man is manipulating words, right? Think about it. If you take God, if you take the word good, you take away one O, you have God. So obviously, man is constructing these thoughts and ideas. Most people don't realize how much the Catholic Church has formulated most of the ideas that we prescribe to in the Bible. But that's a whole different discussion. Okay, CKS. Oh my. I'm not in the studio today, so I'm kind of winging it, guys. That's why I'm here longer than usual. So I'm on vacation, just kicking it with you guys today. So I have the time. Typically, when I'm in my home studio or studio, I don't have this kind of time to do things. Okay, so CK says, church is the people, not a building. Exactly. Okay, so it's all about the people. At least that's probably what the original. So let me get into that. So when you go into Israel, right? Even today, if you notice that Israel, they're fighting with Palestine. What are they fighting about? Oh, they're fighting about land. And that's what this whole thing in the Hebrew scriptures is about. Most people don't realize that, like, especially people that are churchgoers or what have you, my grandmother and all this, they don't realize that it's all about promised land in the Bible, right? It's not about, so I say all that to say, usually when it came to the gods, the God would be associated with the land. So for Israel, their God would be in that particular land, the land that to this very day they're still trying to take possession of, or it's all theirs from the river to the sea. You have to be able to understand the history to really understand why people are fighting over the Bible. So in other words, when Israel was in a particular land serving their God, they could explain to people, this is my God, my land. When the foreigners came and ran them away, now they moved to a different land. So now they're, let's say, in Iran, and now they're serving the god Mazda. So that's why when you have the Hebrew scriptures, they developed the scriptures so that people, the generations, when they lost their land and their temple, they would still have their God. And Israel is the first ones that basically came up with this concept of a God in the sky. So now you have a relationship with your God. So no matter where you go, as long as you keep these commandments, you would be pleasing God. But the whole issue with Israel is that they always have this concept now that they never please God. They can never please God. Even to this day, you ask them, well, why hasn't your kingdom, or why hasn't the Messiah come back? Because Israel does not see Jesus as the Messiah. And that's why they had him killed, right? They don't see him as a Messiah. And that's another concept people don't quite get. It's because of the Apostle Paul who made Jesus, right? He's the one that came up with these concepts to where now Jesus would accept anybody, because that was more appealing to getting circumcised, right? The Jews would have to get circumcised. But when you became a Christian, it was more appealing because you didn't have to get circumcised. You didn't no longer just not only eat meat, you could eat whatever you wanted to, right? Because most of these religions, they use Matthew chapter, I believe it's 7, where it says it's not what goes into the man that defiles a man, but it's what's inside his heart. So you have to really understand where all of these different concepts are coming from. So that's why Paul, if you really take a moment and you research how the Apostle Paul, he was rejected as the apostle. The Apostle Paul, basically, he said, and I believe it's Corinthians, he says that I'm an apostle and I'm not lying to you. Paul says this out of his own mouth. He says, I'm an apostle and I'm not lying to you. So you have to think about, what is he saying? The scriptures also says that when he went to Asia, the congregation in Asia rejected Paul. So Paul says that himself in Timothy, I believe. So when you go to Revelation chapter 2, verses 1 and 2, Jesus says that a false apostle, right, was rejected by those in Asia. So you got to see, most people are not quite understanding what's happening. So anyway, I don't want to get too deep into that, but today I am kicking it with you guys, so keep them coming. But I could only break it down to a certain level. Okay, so Jesse Ball says, born again, you are the church. Okay, the church is within you. Jesus says the kingdom of God is within you. Okay, so that is true. If that is something that Jesus said according to the Gospels. Jesse Ball says the Catholic Church is Satan incarnate. The Catholic Church, all roads lead back to the Catholic Church. And I had a chance to go to Rome and actually see the breakdown, and it would really blow your mind. When you actually go to Rome, a lot of my lives, I'm going to Greece next, but as a part of my Bible scholarship program, I have to go to Italy, Greece, and then I go to Egypt last, because these religious concepts started in Egypt, and then they went to Greece, and then they came into Rome, and then out of Rome, you get these concepts about the Christ, right? So you have to gather from that whatever you want to, but it's all there if you do your research. But the Roman Catholic Church are the ones that put the Bible together. Most people, I spent most of my life as a Christian and did not realize how much the Roman Catholic Church played a part. And not only that, most people, when they grow up in religion, they don't even know what the church fathers are, because you don't learn that. You basically learn the text of the scriptures. But when it comes to the church fathers, after Jesus so-called died, the church fathers were the ones who defined the religious beliefs. And that's why when you had the Council of Nicaea, they met to determine if Jesus was God, was he the Son of God, and they had to define the Trinity. So that's what that was about. Okay, so that's all stemming from the Catholic Church, whether you want to believe it or not. Okay, so Ray Pettis says there were pagan religions prior to Judaism and Christianity. That's what I broke down the other night. Remember the story in Matthew about the Magi that came to see the baby Jesus? That's a concept that stemmed from Iran. The modern day Iran still has the same religion called Zoroastrianism, right? And so these concepts of animal sacrifice, the Magi's, all of that stems from that religion, which is prior to Judaism, but they developed a lot of their religious beliefs, because remember when Jerusalem went into captivity, they went into the land, right? They went into those lands, and some of their religions thoughts, that's where they learned it from. I'm only going to take a few more and then we're going to be off. This is a news show, but it turned out to be questions about the Bible. All right, so let's see here. Ray Pettis says they're pagan religions. Okay, Presto says, I didn't know Jewish people get baptized in the river. Okay. Yes, they have their whole process too. Okay, Silvio says, we are not born into the religion. Religion is acquired taste, love, and understanding that existed thousands of years before the invention of the supreme being. Love is love. Exactly. Good point. Good point. You would basically have to, if you follow the Bible's timeline, then man has only been on the earth 6,000 years, right? So you can ask your pastor that. That's like basic knowledge, right? But you can, now man is starting to understand that there are so many civilizations that go back 14,000 years. So that immediately caused you to try to figure out a different understanding, okay? Jesse Ball says the one way forever, okay? All right. Lonnie says the Pope has some explaining to do now, don't they? Listen, I told you guys the other day, when the first slave ships left, and I learned this while I was in Rome, when the first slave ships left Portugal or what have you, they had to get the permission of the Pope. Research it yourself. So the Pope, they had all the power. And keep in mind that the Roman Empire turned into the Catholic Church. There's no doubt about it. The Romans would lead with the sword. But once they capitalized on religion, they never had to use the sword again. Look it up. They stopped having the war because they controlled the man's mind by means of religion. Think about that. That's what happened. They control the man now by the words of the holy books instead of having to go kill him. And now you send all your donations and all your money, and look how much money the Roman Catholic Church takes in since the inception of the Christ. Billions upon billions of dollars because they capitalize on religion. All right, so I won't get too deep into that either. Lonnie says, let's see here, and I'm starting to lose my voice. I've been doing this too long today, but I'm on vacation, so you guys are getting a little bit more of me than you normally would. Joe says, there is no true religion. Okay, thank you for that comment. I understand what you mean. That's a deep concept. And religion is the lens, right, through which men see their God. Right. So because of these, if I put on these Islam lenses, right, now I don't eat pork. Right. Now I don't eat pork. I have a whole different, the enemy is the infidel, and I'm willing. And when I die, I'm going to have all these virgins, you know. So then I take this and I put on the Christian lens. Oh, now I can eat pork. I don't have to get circumcised. It's a matter. So you see how this thing is so different depending on your religion, right? Hinduism, right? Okay, not really about a God. It's more about me and being aware and understanding life and meditation. See, so religion is a key thing here. But the problem is with most of these religions, it comes with a money package. So you have to pay in order to play to a big extent. That's what the world is coming to, folks. All right. So, all right. Good point, Jesse Balls. Israelis are not Israelites. Okay, good point. We just had a big protest in New York City where I don't like to say the word Jews, where they basically explain that concept. So that's a good point. Okay, I'm going to take a few more. John Doe says, Paul didn't set up the churches. Paul was locked up in prison while writing the letters to the churches. It does mention in the New Covenant the 7 churches, but it means followers of Christ. Okay. So my question to you is this, right? When Jesus died, were there any Christians on earth? Okay. Think about that. When he died, was there any Christians? Would he have known the word Christian? Right? When did the idea of Christian come into being? You have to really ask yourself these questions, right? When Jesus died, he was a practicing Jew. So if you want to follow Jesus, theoretically, you should be a Jew. I'm just telling you, if you want to follow the basics of the matter. Because Paul, after he came along with his writings, and he tells you he didn't meet Jesus in person, he had this vision. And Paul started writing these letters. He said the Christians did exist, right? But Paul was instrumental in setting up the churches, and that's where you get these ideas. He's breaking down what the ministerial servant's role, the bishop, he's the one defining the roles of the church and the hierarchy. When Jesus, in Matthew 23, Jesus says, do not call anybody rabbi. So what are you going to do with that? Jesus was not for position. He would have said, do not call someone a pastor. It's right there in Matthew 23. So at any rate, I don't want to get too deep into that either, but we're having some little discussion. I can't cover everything today. Jess Ball says chosen for what? Hand on, hand off. Okay. Buckeye says absolutely correct. Thank you for that. Guys, I'm winding down now. Juan says have peace within you and be free. Amen. I'm with you 100%. Buckeyes for Life says religion is a mental illness and a scam. Okay. All right. Thank you for your comment. Lonnie says, when he condoned same-sex marriages, St. Peter statue was struck by lightning, not once but twice. The hand that held the keys and his crown. Okay, so let's get into that real quick, and then I'm going to go. When you go to the Roman Catholic Vatican, they have Peter there, and they also have his remains. They have his burial, and they also have the statue of the Apostle Paul. They have the whole thing cornered, right? They have the whole market cornered. I want you to think about that. It's all in the Roman Catholic Church. You won't find it anyplace else. You have to ask yourself why. Then when you really, there is no burial for any Bible character. I'll challenge you. Show me one outside of the Catholic Church. You'd have to show me. Where is, Jesus, all of the apostles, where are their remains at? You won't find any of them. Okay, there's a reason for that. I won't get into that today. All right. Okay. Ray Pettis says Jasmine Crockett is accomplished civil rights attorney. Yeah, she's top of her game. John Stevenson says you better believe when Judgment Day is upon us. Okay, Judgment Day, that's a whole nother subject matter. John, for you, I'll say this because you're on here every day, and I'm going to close out after that. Okay, so you says you better believe when Judgment Day is upon us. Okay, so John, I'm going to give you this challenge, right? And then I'm going to let you guys go. I want you to go into the Gospels, and I want you to check out what Jesus said by means of the four Gospel writers. Okay, when you go to Mark chapter 9, you have the Transfiguration, and right before that, the book of the chapter 9 opens up, and Jesus says, there are some standing here that will not taste of death before the Son of Man, for the kingdom comes. Okay, so he's talking to people that are standing there, right? There's at least 3 different occasions when he says, he told another group, right? And I'll post the scripture here for you. He says, you will not complete your circuit, right? Because they were doing a preaching campaign. And Jesus says, you will not complete your circuit until you see the Son of Man coming. So imagine today, if you and I are having a conversation, right? And let's say you're out there preaching on the street, and I said, listen, you won't finish your circuit before I bring you your lunch or I bring you a meal. Wouldn't you expect that in your lifetime? Or would you be expecting it in our day 2,000 years later? So it's quite evident when you read the Bible that Jesus is saying that he would be coming back in their lifetime. Okay? So I want to challenge you to go and research that. Go to 2 Thessalonians. The Apostle Paul said that he was expecting to be caught away into heaven with Jesus when he returned. It's not a good way to use gestures because I'm not in my normal studio, so I'm knocking the mic over. So he says he would get caught up in the rapture with Jesus during his lifetime in 2 Thessalonians. Paul was expecting Jesus to come in his lifetime. And with Jesus comes the judgment that you're talking about, John Doe. So let's start there. You have to read these texts, and then we could talk about it. Hey, thank you guys for tuning in today. We didn't mean to get into this whole biblical concept, but it's where the comments took us, all right? So we thank you so much for tuning in to the channel, and I look forward to chatting with you guys soon. We'll be back on tomorrow, hopefully just to talk about the news. We were deviated today because people had questions, and I appreciate everybody's comments. And we got here because we were talking about what does it take to unite man, because everybody wants to be a Democrat, Republican, what have you. What can really cause us to unite? So thank you so much, guys. I'm actually losing my voice. I talk so much today. I usually don't even talk this much, but thank you kindly. I appreciate all of you guys. And I'll definitely see you guys tomorrow at noon.
Different voices, but the same song. Living a world where we all belong. Kindness leading the way, breaking the chains. In the symphony of love, the thing remains. Embracing diversity, brighter days in sight. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. The colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.